First, I also oversee the McKinney Bento program as well. Today I have with me my colleague Becky Peters. She is a technical wizard. She's here to help us troubleshoot any unforeseen technical issues or problems that we may have. Um, I also have with us my esteemed colleague, Dr. Max Lang. And most of you know Max. He oversaw this program very successfully for many, many years. Max is now my boss. He is the what we call the URSI team coordinator. He oversees all of the federal programs and related state initiatives here at the Utah State Board of Education. So Max is here. Thank you, Max, for joining us. Grateful for all of you to be here. With teams, it gets a little bit tricky if there's everybody off of mute. It makes it so that the sound doesn't work quite as well. Becky is going to record the meeting as soon as Carrie starts her presentation, and we will send that out later on. So if you can remain on mute, and then Carrie and Marcy and Rosario and Bill will decide how they want to field questions, whether they want you to come off mute, put them in the chat, or do both. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start our meeting and welcome our good friend, Carrie, some of them. Carrie, thank you so much for being willing to go through this. Carrie does such amazing work and is always such a great colleague and friend. Carrie, I did make you a presenter, so hopefully that will work. Okay. And welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's so good to see everybody today. And we're so grateful that I get a chance to kind of go through the evaluation for the Migratory Parent Empowerment Consortium evaluation for 25-26. We had a in-person meeting and we went through these together as a team, and we thought it would be nice to share this with you all so that you can kind of see what the requirements are going to be for from here on out until the end of September for the evaluation. And Utah is a member state, actually it's the lead state for the MPEC Consortium Incentive Grant. So hopefully you guys are all familiar with that. I am going to share my screen. Let's see, I am a Zoom person, not a Teams person. So forgive me for, let's see, let's make sure you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? You got my screen?
Thank you.
Okay. So let me get rid of this so it's a little bit bigger. Again, this is MPEC SIG. So we are in our third year. Currently, the Department of Education has put out a notice in the Federal Register to get comments back about having a 2-year extension for the SIGs. Typically, at this time, we would be writing new applications for a new 3-year cycle. So that's really good news given everything that's been going on at the Department of Ed. It's nice to be working through an extension rather than having to get new grants approved. So we've done this before. It was like 2 cycles ago where we had 2-year extension. So we know it works, and it'll be a great way to be able to continue the work that was started in the first 3 years. So like I said, right now we're in the 3rd year. And I'm going to cut and paste this link so that you all have this. Let's see, where's chat? Again, like I said, Teams is not always my friend. But if you click on that link, and I'm clicking on it, make sure it works. It does. That has all of the handouts that we're going to go through. One thing I want to note is that, let me just clear off stuff I've got on my computer. I lost you guys. Wait. Where'd you go? I can't find you now. There it is. Okay. So one thing I wanted you to note is some of this stuff is not going to be applicable to you all directly, but I wanted to share with you what we are collecting for the evaluation as a whole. So we'll go through each of these, but all of these handouts are in the Google folder. So again, we're talking about this year, 25-26. And actually, since Max is on here, the reason why we have the state director checklist was many years ago. We were in a meeting and Max goes, just give me a checklist. Just give me a checklist of what I need to do each year. And hence we're still doing it however many years, I don't remember how many years ago that was, Max, but it was a long time ago. And so we now, every SIG has this state director checklist, and it's about the evaluation data collection that people need to do for each of the member states, but also what, certain things the state is required to do as part of being in the SIG. So I'm going to go through each of these items separately. So the first item on that checklist is to provide training to all MEP staff in your state, utilizing the resources and training materials developed by MPEC. And I know that you all have worked with Bill Bansberg to receive some of that training. And then the second one is to participate in the MPEC state steering team meeting. So that's where a representative from each state is present at a meeting where decisions about the SIG are made. And then also number 3 is to provide training and parent engagement and parent advisory committee activities to migratory parents in your state, utilizing the resources and training materials developed by MPEC. So part of MPEC is to develop training materials and resources and, training of trainers kind of kits for parents and staff related to parent engagement, but also related to the Migrant Literacy Net website that has the lessons and tutorials. So, we ask that states utilize that and provide training on that. I know Bill does a lot of the training for Utah, for most of MPEC. So that model works great. And he does that in a lot of other states as well. So, but for these, there are certain data collection forms. We have the MPEC Director Survey, and this is something that Robert fills out, but I did want to share with you all what he is required to collect so that in case he reaches out to any of you for any of this, you know why he's asking this. But for both the training, the parent training and staff development, only that training that has been provided utilizing resources that were developed through MPEC do we log on to these. So this would be on the director survey. And then we also have a staff training evaluation. Usually that's not something that you all are responsible for. Whoever from MPEC is providing the training will make sure that you have staff training evaluation to complete at the end, and same with parent training. So if Alta helps you all with a PAC meeting, then he will make sure that at the end of that PAC meeting that there is the QR code and the link for parents to complete the parent training evaluation. And then just to kind of back you up a little bit, the reason why we have all these training evaluations and surveys are that we in our application to the feds, it has performance measures that we have to respond to. And so everything that we ask of the participating states is associated with a performance measure. So we're not asking for anything beyond what we said we would do in the grant application. So items number 4 and 5 on that state director checklist is to participate in the MPEC parent advocate team. And this, we always have this meeting in association with our state steering team meeting. And then sometimes it's a virtual meeting that's at a separate time. So Robert would let you know if any of you all would be a part of that. Usually it's the state director or whoever they assign for that. And then item number 5 is utilize the reading and math resources on the Migrant Literacy Net with migratory children and youth. And this is really important because these resources were developed through this consortium. They are created specifically for migratory children and youth. They're not curriculum, but they are they provide you an ability to, and Bill will talk more about this when he comes on a little bit later, provide you resources to be able to target foundational reading and math skills for students. There is also a parent portal on there now, and that was developed as part of the previous first parent engagement 3-year cycle, that parents can go on there and assign things for their kids, look up tutorials if they know their child needs to work on a particular skill in math or reading, that they can then identify online tutorials. And again, Bill's going to go through all this stuff with you guys later on during today. And then data for this is really just from the MPEC Director Survey. We have some items about ways in which your state's participation in the PAC team was impacted parent engagement in your state. And a lot of that is that PAT team, what they do is really discuss things that are working, what's not, what's needed by parents, and they give each other ideas. It's kind of a work group. And then also items on that director survey: in what ways did your state utilize the reading and math resources on the Migrant Literacy Net? And then any new reading and math materials and strategies in your state that were added or enhanced in 25, 26 as a result of participating in impact. So again, these are things that Robert are going to complete, but he might be reaching out to some of you to ask, help him complete that. Also, items 6 through 9 on the director checklist, these we have a parent survey and we have a staff survey. And the intent of the parent and the staff survey are to kind of, after parents have received training, they've completed the training evaluation, what did you learn? How much did you learn? Then give them time to go back with their kids or with the students that they work with, and utilize what they learned. And then these are given out, the parent survey and the staff survey are given out later over the summer and even into September, to ask them how they applied what they learned. So that's kind of why, like I said, we have the training evaluations that really ask, did this increase your knowledge? But then the staff and the parent surveys are supposed to be completed after parents and staff have had time to utilize what they've learned at training. So questions on the parent survey, just so to give you an idea of what this parent survey is asking parents. And this is in English and Spanish. Parent training and or reading and math activities helped increase my involvement in my child's education. And this is a rating item. What did you learn from participating in parent training and or reading and math activities? The resources on the parent portal help me support my child's literacy skills. These are all rating items. Help me support my child's math skills and help me improve my own literacy skills. And then an open-ended question: how did the resources on the parent portal help help your child with their education? Help you help your child. Sorry. So that is all. That's the components of the parent survey. So, when you are looking at which parents to ask to complete this, it would definitely be the ones that have participated in parent training activities, that have utilized MPEC resources, and or reading and math activities. So I know that Bill and Alice will do, parent and child reading and math activities at PAC activities. So those parents who've participated in that, but then also the parents who are using the parent portal with their children and for themselves. So, and then the staff survey, that is handout 6 in your Google folder. The questions on that are: to what extent has training and technical assistance provided by MPEC increased your skills for providing services to migratory parents and families, for providing services to migratory students, for providing reading and math instruction to migratory students? And these are rating items. To what extent have the MPEC reading and math resources increased your capacity to provide evidence-based reading and math instruction? To what extent have the MPEC parent resources on the Migrant Literacy Net helped you provide evidence-based services to migratory students and families? And then I think there's more. Yeah. To what extent have parents and family members that utilized the MPEC parent resources on the Migrant Literacy Net increased their engagement in their child's education? To what extent have parents and family members that participated in training, activities, or events that utilized MPEC resources increased their engagement in their child's education? Which MPEC service, tool, resource has most impacted services to migratory parents and family members in your state or area? And then which MPEC service, tool, resource has most impact services to migratory students in your area or state? And then in what ways has professional development impacted your capacity to serve migratory parents and family members or migratory students? I can't remember if there's more. No. So again, the parent and staff survey, that is a responsibility that you all have for this evaluation. So I really wanted to kind of call out what was on there, when to do that, sometime over the summer. And you know, these, as long as parents and staff complete these surveys by the end of September, we are good on that. So I did want to stop after talking about these two surveys to see if anybody had any questions. Did I send the link for these handouts? It's in the chat. There's a, do you want me to repost that chat, the link? Let's see, it's still there, yeah. There's the link to the Google folder that has all of these handouts. And then there is a, there should be a checklist that has, I know there's a checklist, let's see. Yeah, so if you go to, oh, I'm still going to talk about it. That's why I haven't talked about it yet. Sorry. Okay, so let's go to the next thing. That's the evaluation data checklist. So this has all of the links and QR codes and all of the data collection forms that you all are responsible for. And who is responsible. So if you look at that first one, the Form 1 is the Impact Plus Director Survey. It talks about, it shows which performance measures are addressed. I don't know if I can make this any bigger. And then the person's responsible, the persons who complete the form, and then the due date. So everything that is due from you all is on this one pager that's in there, along with the due date. Any questions about any of this? Anything I can do to help you guys with any of this? Hopefully we've given you enough time to be able to plan and prepare for it. So. All right. This is my contact information, my email, my phone. Please feel free to call or email. This PowerPoint is in the Google folder, so you have access to everything that is in the slides. If there's anything I can do to support you guys or help with data collection, any questions you have, please feel free to call or email. I'm always here to support you.
By the way,
Wonderful.
Carrie, don't you take most of your phone calls between 2 and 3 in the morning?
Yes, I do. Hi, Max. Yeah. So let's see, how long will we have access to that folder? Oh, you'll always have access to the folder. So that will be open. And then I can send Robert actually just the PowerPoint so that he can send that out to you guys. So you have a copy of that. So in case you lose access to the folder. Because the link is in there.
Awesome.
Yep.
Carrie, thank you so very much. Thank you for being so accessible and always so kind and helpful. Right before I let Carrie go, just any other questions or need to clarify anything from anyone here, please just come off mute. If not, thank you, Carrie, and really appreciate all you do.
You bet.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good
Take
meeting.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we're off to a great start. Carrie is just a wonderful colleague and person to work with. Always been extremely kind and accessible for me whenever I have questions, and is really understanding and just a wonderful person. So thank you for those of you who are just joining now. My name is Robert Palmer. We're in the middle of our Migrant Education Spring Meeting. This is our agenda today. We just heard from Carrie Summervan from Meta Associates. She went through the MPEC evaluation. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Marcy Trogdon. And Marcy is our person for help with MIS 2000. We have had her do presentations the last several meetings, last fall, last spring, this fall. And now I feel like we're at a point where we can do a Q&A with Marcy. So during this time for the next half hour, Marcy's here to field any questions you may have, to clarify anything you might need clarification from. Just a reminder, Marcy is only MIS 2000. She's not able to answer questions about specifics with programming or with M6. She can kind of talk about how MIS 2000 works in collaboration with MIS 2000, but really Marcy's just our MIS 2000 person. If you are a veteran person, like some of you who have been here for quite a while, and you know what questions to ask, even if you know the answers that you think some of our newer people might need to know, feel free to ask those questions too. It's always helpful to have a time where we can all learn from one another. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Marcy Trogdon. And if any of you have any questions, please come off mute. And Marcy, if they don't have any questions, if you can think of any updates or anything you want to share with us, that would be perfect. So thank you so much, Marcy, for being here.
Sure. So yeah, I'm just available to you guys. You've been using the system for a little while now. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to discuss? Have questions, things that you'd like for me to demo for you? This is just, I'm available. So let's kind of start there. If there's anything that you have questions about, just either put it in the chat or unmute and ask. And we'll just kind of go from there.
Thank you, Marcy. Becky is in the chat, so your message will be seen. So read your question out loud from Marcy. So anything that's come up, any issues you've had with MIS 2000, anything you want to know about the system or how to navigate it, this is your time now to receive those answers to those questions.
Hey, I have a question. This is Penny, and if it's really loud, I'm in between classes with students. Sorry. Hi, Marcy.
Hi.
Question. When we are entering the COEs, where is the best place to enter the comments so that they actually show up on the COE at the end if I want to print the COE?
So on your COE, when you're filling out the form, you have, I assume, different text boxes for the different comments. If those are not all printing in the printed COE when you print it out, that's kind of a report issue, and I just need to know about it and I can fix it. So the expectation is that if you enter comments in any of the comment fields, that they'll be printed in the comment section on that on the PDF of the COE. So if they're not doing that, would you mind emailing me which ones you're not seeing? I'll review it and I should be able to fix that.
Whoop. Yep. Thank you.
Let me share my screen and I'll show you for anybody who is unfamiliar. So this is the COE form that we were just talking about. So when you are creating a new COE, specifically in section 3 of your COE, there are for each item that might require comments, there's a different text box for each item. So, they're only required if that item, would have a comment. So you would just enter your comments in the comment box for that item, and then they will print on the COE PDF. And if that is, I will check that to make sure it's set up correctly. And if it's not, I'll fix it. More questions?
How does it look from the other side?
So just to double check, when a student first moves into your district, we go ahead and enter the SSID number. If they leave and come back, when we re-enter, sorry, school bell, when we re-enter that COE, we just leave off the SSID number so that it flags it. If you put the SSID number on that for that same student again, even though they've moved and come back, it flags it. So we need to make sure we leave off that new the SSID number second go around.
Yes. So basically what is happening when you enter a new COE in to MIS 2000, initially, it's going to add that student. And, if that person doesn't exist in the database already, then there's no, state ID assigned to them. And so it will let you add that. But once that person exists in the database and that ID number is already assigned to a student, it won't let you add that to another student when you add a new COE. So you'll just leave it empty. And then when that COE goes through your review process, one of the reviewers does what we call student resolution, and they will basically link the existing student record in MIS 2000 to this new COE. So the result will be that the child has that identifier assigned to them.
Thank you. Another randomly weird question. Some of the students, when we put them in Utah Migrant, they generate their SSID number and some have a UTO number. Why? And
Okay,
should it be consistent? Sure. Should there be one or both? Yeah.
Sure. So in MIS 2000, kids can have a bunch of different IDs and they can come from different sources. So all of the IDs that start with UT0, those are actually generated by MIS 2000, and all of your kids are going to have one of those or more, one or more. So they could have multiple UT0 something identifiers. But then there are other types of IDs that can represent that same person. So you have your state identifier, which we're looking at here. And there are other IDs like the M6 ID that's in here too. So when a kid gets submitted to M6, they assign an ID to that person as well, and they send that ID back to us. So there are a bunch of different kinds of IDs, and those can all represent the same person, and that's by design. And somebody has their hand raised. You had a question?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Is there any way we can make it so that when we run our reports, it's only the SSID that shows? When they're mixed like that, it's really, really difficult to be able to use the report in any kind of capacity to check for, because then we have to go back through the ones that just have the UTO and we have to figure out who it is. Then we have to go find the SSID. Like, it just makes it really awful. Is there any way to change that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can change it. I am making myself a note to look through your reports and show your state identifier on them. So, do all of your kids have a state ID? Like kids who are under 3 and out of school, do they also have an ID?
It doesn't let us submit without an SSID.
Like it
doesn't let us submit the COE without an SSID. I don't know if anyone else has that problem.
It will
does
let
now.
you submit the COE without the SSID if the student has already been entered into the system one time somewhere. It will let you submit that.
Right. So then that would mean they would have an SSID if they've already been in. But new students we can't add without an SSID. So then everyone would have one.
So everyone will have one. Okay. So there are questions in the chat. So if it won't let you submit without an SSID, who do we contact? So it should let you. But if you have issues with MIS 2000 related errors, you can email us. I'll put the email address in the chat at support@msed.com, and we can several of us monitor that. So you'll get a response from one of us to help you. Then Amanda, yes, that is correct. So if a student already has an SSID in MIS 2000, you'll just leave that field empty when you complete the new COE. So if this child has a prior COE, and let's say this is like their second COE that you're entering, when you add them to that COE, just leave the SSID empty and submit it, and then when your reviewers review the COE, that will all get linked up with the existing student.
So many great questions. Marcy, you always have so many great answers. Any other questions you may have, or any other requests that you might want to make? As far as we need to make sure, one of the things that I've talked with Marcy's colleague and her about is that when one of you or someone on your staff leaves, we need to make sure that we close their MIS 2000 account. And I actually ran into that this past year when our colleague Madeline Kerr left the agency. I got an email saying, "Oh, is Madeline still there? Because I'm getting a bounce back from anything I sent from MIS 2000," and I was unaware that she hadn't called and verified that she was no longer needing the system. So that's one thing, is to make sure that to let people know at MIS 2000 if someone on staff is no longer going to be in a role that they need access to MIS 2000. The other thing I know that Marcy really talks about a lot, and maybe Marcy can talk a little bit about this, is how is it is best to contact someone at the help desk, whether they should do that via email or if they should do that by contacting you directly. And then also the importance, once again, of PII and just making sure that we're able to identify students to you when we're asking for help in a way that won't violate any PII or any student data privacy.
Sure. Yeah. So I put the email address in the chat. So that's our support email. So if you have, issues or questions about MIS 2000, you can email support@msed.com, and one of us can get back with you and help you. And regarding the PII, just don't send us like student PII. Basically, you can send us an ID number, but we don't want any like names or any of that in those emails. So just stick with an ID number, and that should be sufficient for us to research any issue that you're having with a student.
Great, Marcy, thank you. Anybody else have a question or a comment or some helpful hints as far as the MIS 2000 system?
Yeah, I had another question. On the I am on the Utah Migrant website right now.
Okay.
On the COE, I am viewing one of my COEs for this year.
Mhm.
Will at some point, will it populate the district school year? So on our actual COEs that we fill out at the top, it has the district school year. And
Mm-hmm.
that information is not populating on here. So if I print one, I know who the kid is, so I know what year it is, but it would be nice if at the top or somewhere it had what school year it was, like the district, maybe not, but at least the school year.
Yeah, let me look. Let me look at the form. Let's just look at a form.
I know we enter it when we enter the COE, but it
Right.
doesn't right there. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I can add that to the top of it somewhere. Basically, this form is just that you're seeing here is just looks like kind of a generic national COE form, but we can definitely add things to it and customize it. So I can add the district and school year just in the top, so it's available to you.
Thank you. Sorry, I have a whole list of notes of here and questions that I've kind of been keeping over the last while, and
Yep.
over the last few years, a lot of these have been taken care of.
Mhm.
So I'm just looking at just some information of what I've missed.
Sure, yeah. I'm happy to answer any of those, or I'll do my best anyway.
You are doing great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions that you might have for Marcy?
Not yet, but when I get through my list, I'm sure I will at any point in time, Marcy. You know I'll get a hold of you if I need to.
That's great. If any of you are new this for this spring meeting, or new in the role since we've last met since the fall, do you have any specific questions? Do you have access to the things you need? Are you aware of the different things you have access to in MIS 2000, how to enter the data? Yesterday, I was approving many COEs, which was always interesting to me this time of year to see how many people were getting identified new. You guys do a great job of identification, and I really appreciate that. Your COEs always look really good. I haven't had any that I've had to send back with any errors or problems or issues. Any other questions regarding that? Or is the system working well for you? Is it something that you feel comfortable and confident in navigating, or is there something you would like some additional troubleshooting or additional training on? We're very fortunate. I was in a meeting recently with other states from that are running their migrant programs, and they are all with MIS 2000, the group of states that I was with. And there was one state who has to now make an RFP for a system, and they're hoping to get into MIS 2000. Marcy, one of the things that I have heard from various people is that MIS 2000 kind of put a freeze on accepting applications from states to be able to partner with MIS 2000 due to the uncertainty regarding the migrant education funding at the federal level. Do you have any information on that, or can you speak to that at all?
Um, so any if states are interested in MIS 2000, who are not already with us, they can email Victor and have a conversation with him about it. I am not sure where that is. I know that we have been working with at least one state that is coming on board. But I don't know outside of that if he's talking with anyone or not. But Victor Oliver is who they would want to get in touch with.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions for Marcy before we let her go? Marcy, so appreciate you. She's been just fabulous to work with. I have to ask her a lot of questions and navigate through a lot of procedures, and she's always been so great. Penny, thank you. You're always so great to come up with such thoughtful and important questions and ideas and thoughts for us to be thinking about. Anything else before we let Marcy go?
Thank you, Marcy.
Sure. Thanks for your questions, Penny. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Marcy. Have a great rest of your day.
Sure. Thanks, you too.
Take care. All right. That was so helpful. Penny, as always, thank you so much. Penny's been doing this for a very long time, and not just doing it, but doing it at a very high level, a very successful level. Appreciate Penny and her insights. So a little bit of breaking news, because we're all about excitement here. I just received notice from one of our presenters that they are actually unable to make it today, which is no big deal. We're totally fine. That's great. So what we're going to do is I move them and then I contact Bill, and Bill's actually going to be on at 10 o'clock. So even though I changed the agenda to remove Rosario, and they promised they'd come and present at another one of our presentations, they just had a conflict come up. I have Amanda Hartzler from USBE, and we can go through her recording now, and then Bill will be jumping on actually at 10 o'clock. And Bill's portion of the meeting is really the most important. He's going to talk about the evaluation, the migrant listening network identification and recruiting process. So I'm going to switch over. Sorry, sometimes I have a hard time navigating this little system. And I'm going to share a recording that Amanda Hartzler made for us. And Amanda is just wonderful. She's here at our office with us and does a fantastic job. She felt really bad. She had a prior commitment, but she's like, Robert, I need to speak to these people. Please let me make a recording and you can present. So I'm going to do my best to make this work with us. So let's see if I can share this screen and make this so that we can have it for all of you to look at the same time. So I'm going to come over here, back to my Teams. I'm going to go to share. Windows, and there it is. So here's our meeting with, our recording with Amanda, and you should be able to hear and see her. If you don't hear her, let me know.
Can't hear her.
Okay. Let's see here. Becky, do you have any ideas of how we can get that to play for them to be able to hear her at the same time?
I know in Zoom, there's a way that you have to access things so it plays audio at the same time. I'm not entirely sure on Teams.
Okay. No, let's see if I can find where she sent it here. If there's a, what I'll do is let's just send the link into the chat, and you guys can go off and listen to this little portion of your own. Then after you've listened to Amanda, if you want to take a quick break and be back at 10 o'clock for the meeting with Bill, that would be perfect. So I'm going to share this link. Let me know if you can have access to that link, or I might have to switch it in here to give you access. And if not, then I'll get with Amanda and we'll try to figure out a way to get to you.
Robert?
Yes.
I am not sure what Rosario was going to share with the Utah Farm Worker Program, but having used the Utah Farm Worker Program before, what they have to do is call and set up an appointment with them and work through it. It's for kids who are going to college that need help paying for that. And my daughter actually used it her senior year of college, and it saved her a lot of money. In the fact that she does work for us. So she would come home and she would work, and there is a lot of documentation to it. And they did follow her for a year after she graduated from college, just to see what she was doing, if she was still in farming and things like that. I've actually got 3 students right now who are in the process of signing up for that. And cool. It is a very good program for college bound students, or those who are already in college that work as a farm worker at any point in time, or if their parents are farm workers, that it will help supplement them to pay their tuition. And it is a lifesaver. So I do have Rosario's information. I do have Jeanette's information if anybody's interested in that. I hope that Rosario will present because it is such an excellent program and it has made a difference in a lot of lives. Hilda was a very big advocate for the farm worker program as well, and it is a great scholarship type program that is wonderful for those who are planning to or attending college.
That is wonderful information. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get with Rosario and make sure that we get her to present with us again. So I felt bad about that. Let's go ahead and take a short break. I can't figure out how to make this work with sound. It's disappointing from Amanda, but that's okay. I'll have Amanda fix it, and then we'll send it out to you in a link. So let's take a break until 10 o'clock and meet back here at 10 o'clock to have Dr. Bill Bansberg. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We've had a great meeting so far. We were able to hear from Carrie Semiban, who went through the MPEC evaluation documents. Marcy Trogdon did a great question and answer period around MIS 2000. Unfortunately, Amanda is currently in person at the Data and Statistics Spring Conference, so she can't make any adjustments to the video today. She apologizes that you can't hear the voice in the video, but she said that she will fix it later to get the video sent out to you. But the main thing for you to know is that you have to have your data in MIS 2000 by October 31st. So by Halloween is when you need to have your data into MIS 2000 for Amanda to be able to submit that to the U.S. Department of Migrant Education. Now, that being said, I will still reach out to you and have you update and make sure to validate your student counts all the way up until the January deadline. It's usually early January when they do the snapshot. That is different. The EdFax data they need earlier. Amanda has to pull early so that she can do all the other tasks. She has many roles and responsibilities. If I reach out to you, I will usually send emails every week leading up to that snapshot. It's always difficult because of winter breaks, and that's a problem. But this year, I want to congratulate each one of you because you did a fantastic and fabulous job of making sure to validate those students that weren't being counted and to fix any issues or any inaccuracies to make sure we got those students counted. As you know, those student counts are what we rely on to get our funding from the federal level. So it is my absolute pleasure, and I am so thrilled to welcome my good friend and colleague, Dr. Bill Bansberg. As you know, last year our contract ran out with Bill, and unfortunately, due to a funding freeze and all kinds of things going on at the federal level, we kind of had to hold for quite a while. Because Bill is a true professional and really cares about students and families, he was still available and made himself available to help and be a resource to all of us. So I'm so grateful we were able to renew our contract with Bill. So he's back. We're ready to roll. He's going to go through the evaluation as well as the Migrant Literacy Network and identification and recruitment. So grateful that Bill is here today. So with that, Bill, I did give you sharing permissions. Well, hopefully we don't have any tech issues on that side. Please welcome everyone, Dr. Bill Bansberg.
Good day, everybody. How's everything in Utah? How's the weather?
It is up and down, kind of as you'd expect. I have 4 boys, and they're all playing baseball. And if you can believe it, last week, one of their games was snowed out. And then the next game, it was so hot, we couldn't believe it. But today's kind of a little bit overcast, maybe a chance of rain. How are things in your neck of the woods?
It's been pretty nice. So, but we've had a drought here going for quite a while. So, but I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. Okay, let me see. I need to. I'm going to talk about 3 different things today, and I know most of you, so some of this will not come as a surprise. But I do need to figure out how to share my screen. So let's see.
So Bill, if you go up on the top ribbon, top ribbon, over by where it says leave, to the left of it's a button that says share.
Let's see. Let's see. Did that do it?
Got it. Perfect.
All right, let's see. Okay, can everybody see that beginning screen?
Looks perfect. Thank you.
Cool. All right. I'm going to talk first about the evaluation of the program. We did, you guys did a great job last year of collecting the data for the needs assessment. We developed a service delivery plan. And now we're to that third part of the continuous improvement process, which is the evaluation. As you guys know, this is something that is, it is required. It's required if you receive migrant money, this is something you need to participate in. We have to go through this continuous improvement model because it's actually one of the things that I've mentioned this before. You've probably heard me say this, but it's one of the things that has maintained the funding for migrant education by being able to show that we're focusing our program on needs and that we're actually accomplishing that. We're actually accomplishing something. We've been able to demonstrate to Congress all along that the program works. And so migrant ed has never been cut, even at this stage of the game. So we are, it's one of those things that is a success success process for migrant. Some programs who didn't follow this, weren't so lucky and got defunded many years ago. But this is a critical piece, and this is something that we have to do. It's a requirement. So the evaluation is based on the service delivery plan. Purpose of the service delivery plan is to, we develop that based on the needs assessment. We're supposed to assess the needs. We identify what the key needs are. And the reason we do that, I mean, obviously migrant families have a lot of needs, but the reason that that we do that is so we can target our services, because the program isn't big enough and it's supplemental. You have to decide what you're going to focus on. So you have to focus on what the top needs are, so we can see if we can alleviate those. And that also focuses what we do. So so the way the service delivery plan is supposed to work, and it would be important for all of you to get a copy, which Robert has, and he can send it to you electronically, because that's what your application for funding for your funds should include what's in the service delivery plan. So the targets of the service delivery plan should be your targets too. Service delivery plan contains really three pieces. One are these performance targets, which are long-term goals to meet the needs. Usually those goals, we like to go for 5-year goals. 5 years out from today, this is where we want to be. The measurable outcomes are kind of the steps to get to those performance targets, and they are more specific. So if your performance target is enhancing reading proficiency, then your measurable outcomes will be components of reading. What components of reading we had the highest needs, and that's where we're going to focus, what we do in terms of services. And then there's also recommendations. That's also a part of the plan. The recommendations actually come from you guys. That's why when I have we did the needs assessment, we have a survey that we ask you to fill out that says effective strategies to meet the needs of the kids. And you guys fill that out. And basically, I just take your recommendations. I don't add things to it. I don't make stuff up. I just simply put what you said are the best strategies that help meet needs. Recommendations in a service delivery plan are just that. It doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to use them. What it means is these are across the state of Utah, these are the things that we do. Whether your particular program does it or not, it's kind of up to you. When we look at the performance targets that we agreed on when we went through the service delivery plan, we have 3. And these 3, closely align with the purposes of migrant education. There's 4 main purposes to migrant education in the law. One is to enhance, well, it's not to enhance. Actually, the purpose is to get all migrant kids proficient in language arts. The second is to get all migrant kids proficient in math. The third is to make sure that migrant children are ready for school. And the fourth is that migrant kids graduate from high school. those are the four main purposes in the law. But when you do a needs assessment, you look at of those main purposes, which are the ones that stand out the most. And so you can have other things that relate to those that become a major performance target. One of the biggest of all, of course, is English language acquisition. So Utah needs looked at, when we looked at the needs assessment, what really came out really clear is we need to enhance and improve proficiency in language arts for migrant students. We need to improve math achievement as well as English language acquisition. Utah is not different than most other states. I do, these needs assessments and evaluations for a lot of states, and this is, kind of where most people are. Overall, nationally, migrant students are only about, I think it's about 19% of migrant students are proficient in language arts nationally, and in math, I think it's about 17%. So it's not these are not unusual performance targets. These make sense. And the way we structured it, it says by the year 2030, 41% of all migrant students enrolled in Utah migrant programs for at least 3 years will score at the proficient level in language arts based on teacher ratings or state assessment scores. I didn't just make that up. That came from the Utah ESSA plan. Every state has to submit the ESSA goals. And so Utah said in ESSA, you disaggregate populations. And so you have certain goals depending on what the population is. The goal closest to migrant are English language learners. And so that's the one we use. There isn't a specific disaggregation for migrant, but there is disaggregation along these other lines. And one of them is English language learners, and that's the closest to migrants, and that's the one we use. And so it says that, by 2030, 41% of all English language learners will be proficient in language arts. Now, whether that happens or not is, that's the goal. Does it happen in most states? No. It's the goal. It's something we're shooting for. So that's where that number came from. And so I have to go, we cannot go in your service delivery plan, we cannot go less than what the state said it was going to get to. So that's why we came up with that 41%. So that's what we hope. So step by step over between now and 2030, we want to move kids towards proficiency in language arts. Okay. Same thing with math. In the ESSA plan, 43% of migrant students, in other words, English language learners, enrolled in the Utah migrant programs for at least 3 years will score at the proficient level in math. I added the part about for at least 3 years because if we're saying that the program is somehow going to affect the kids, and we have to at least, you have to put something in there that says we're going to, there's going to be time for us to make some kind of a difference. So we put in for at least 3 years. So that's how that performance target came to be. English language acquisition by 2030, and this is also from the ESSA plan, 75% of all K-3 migrant kids, 45% of all grades 4-7, and 15% of all grades 8-12 will achieve English language fluency. These performance targets are always more than can actually be achieved. But as long as we're making progress towards them, we look good for the feds. So in order to get to these performance targets, you take these step-by-step measurable outcomes. So when we did the needs assessment, when it came to language arts, there were 3 key areas that we identified as where the highest needs were. And so reading comprehension, vocabulary, phonemic awareness, and phonics were the top areas. And so what we hope is that we will increase proficiency in reading comprehension by half a point based on a 4-point rubric every year. So if the 4-point rubric is 1 is below proficient, 2 is approaching proficient, 3 proficient, 4 advanced. So let's say a child starts at a 1, below a proficient, and we work with them all year and we get them to a 1.5. That's what we're shooting for. So each year we move them up half of a proficiency point. So it's the same with each of these. Reading comprehension, vocabulary, phonemic awareness, and phonics. Now, what this should mean is that when you submit your funding application to Robert, you say that in the application you're going to work with assisting kids to be proficient in reading. You might not have to be as specific as taking apart, and saying we're going to focus on reading comprehension, vocabulary, and phonemic awareness. That's up to how that's structured. But the point is, when we do the evaluation, which we're going to be doing now, that's what we're going to look at. Reading, are we making progress on those areas? So for language arts, it's comprehension, vocabulary, phonemic awareness, and phonics. For mathematics, we're going to target number sense and basic operations, which would be for the younger kids. Reasoning abstractly and quantitatively, which is kind of problem solving in generally. And then the third thing we're going to focus on for math is understanding patterns and structures, which is, it kind of boils down to algebra readiness. Okay. So those things are the things we're going to look at in the evaluation. And we hope we've seen some improvements from the needs assessment, because that's what I do, is we're going to compare what happened where the kids were in the needs assessment to what's going on in the evaluation. And when we do the evaluation, what I'm doing is I'm trying to compare the same kid. So if Juan Martinez last year had a 2 rating, approaching proficient in number, sense, and basic operations, I hope when I see if Juan Martinez is on the rating this year, I hope that I see an improvement. And so that's the way we can look at improvements by child. We want to see if we've actually made improvements. So that's kind of the way this operates. One thing, it's important for me to say about the evaluation, because it's something I ran into with another state, is when you guys think about this, realize that we are not evaluating you. This is not an evaluation of you as a district or your program. This is a state evaluation. We are interested across the state of Utah. Are we getting some progress in these areas? And so think about it that way. It's not an individual evaluation of your district. Okay, so measurable outcomes. Then the last of the measurable outcomes deal with these other things that we found that were needs. One is EL, working with EL students. Increase in the effectiveness of MEP staff and teachers working with EL migrant students. So hopefully the migrant program or you've received some kind of a training over this past year related to ESL or working with EL kids. We hope that if you did, that you feel that it increased your effectiveness of working with those kids. Measurable outcome 80% of all migrant kids enrolled in Utah migrant programs for at least 1 year will increase from initial baseline on the access, which is the WIDA test, towards English language proficiency, by at least a half a point. So it's the same thing as with the rubric. The access has a 6-point rubric, and I'll show that to you in a minute. But what we're hoping is that from last year, the kids will increase by at least a half a point. Okay. And then finally, the last measurable outcome is to enhance parent involvement. That was shown to be, according to the parents, as well as teachers and administrators, a key element. And the way we'll measure that is any parents who participate in activities, and I think Carrie talked about this earlier, will report that the program is effective in helping their children learn to read and be proficient in math. So that is something that if you do the kinds of things that Carrie talked about, you will be able to have some data for that. All right. So the evaluation. By the way, if there's any questions as we go, just unmute yourself and ask. I think that's the simplest way. The evaluation, are we moving towards achieving the performance targets? That's number one. Are we impacting student achievement? Or in other words, are we moving towards meeting the measurable objectives? And then we want to know the extent of services provided and the effectiveness of those services. So that's what the evaluation is. How do we get to that? How do we figure that out? Well, we have these data collection forms. Many of you have seen the forms and used them for years. We've updated them for the evaluation. Please do not use forms that you've had from the past. There are always some changes in them each year, okay? And each time we do this. So if you that's happened, people will find these old forms and use them, and then we really can't do anything with them because they're different. There's a whole packet of forms that Robert will send you today that are the new forms, and I'll go through them with you. But we collect demographics. We need to know certain things like whether the kids are priority for service, grade level, EL, etc. State assessment scores, we need that in language arts, math, and English. Language proficiency. We do teacher ratings, which I'll talk about. We do an administrator staff survey, which has definitely changed from the last one, so we cannot use the last survey. Form has to be this one. We have an implementation of services survey, which also changed. Parent survey, which also changed. So, and then we have a survey of effective strategies. I also will download any data from the Migrant Literacy Net. If you've been using it, that is a great way, it is a perfect way to show reading and math gains. But that's only if people have been using it. So, and I can download the data from that. Once again, it's not by district, it's by the state of Utah. And I can look at what kind of gains there are and what skill areas. And so that makes a real powerful piece for the evaluation, provided people are using it. Okay, let's talk about the data collection forms. As I said, Robert will send these out to you if he hasn't already. So these are the key forms. And these are forms I know that unless you're brand new to Migrant Ed, you guys have used these before. This form is key. There's a language arts and a math form. And what it basically is we have to use this as a way to collect performance data and to show differences. We are required when we do the evaluation to use state assessment scores, but state assessment scores are not really useful for the most part, although we have to include them. State assessment scores are too big. They cover too big of it's reading in general. And so what ends up happening is if you have a student who took the language arts assessment, last year, and they got a rubric of 2, so they were approaching proficient in language arts. And then you worked with them all year, they still might not be proficient. So they're still going to show up as another 2 for the next year. So it looks like there's no progress being made. Second thing about the state assessment is that so few migrant students take it. In most states, it's only about 20% of migrant kids complete the state assessment. So you need some other way of, assessing performance. So this is what we use. Now, these 2 forms are the heart of the evaluation. This is where that you should concentrate most of your efforts. If possible, we need ratings on every single migrant student you have in your district. And the way to do this is you take the form, you can, and the best way to do this is if you know which teachers have migrant kids in their class, you write the teacher's name on top and you write the kids that are for them that are in their class that are migrant, just the names of the kids. And that's important because teachers may or may not know whether the kids in their class are migrant, whether they're eligible migrant students. You write their names, and then the first four columns are columns you would check. The teacher's not going to know. Are the kids priority for service? I'll talk about that in a second. Really important to put grade level. If you don't put grade level, if I have no, and I've gotten these forms back before where people don't put the grade level. They don't put the grade level, I can't use it. I have to know what grade level these kids are in. So that's really, really important. You guys will have to fill in the WIDA score or the access score, as well as if there's a state assessment score, what is it? It's the rubric score for both of them. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4 for the state assessment and the 1 through 6 for WIDA.
Bill, I have a question really quick.
Yes.
Is this form downloadable to a Google Doc so that we can actually type that information in?
It's not, but I can look into it. I can look into it and see if it's possible. I'm sure it's possible, but we haven't done that.
Okay, so maybe look into that for next year if it's not possible. It's kind of late for this year, I guess, but.
Is this you, Penny?
Of course, I'm the only one that's going to bug you.
All right, here's the issue that I can see, because it's one that Robert's going to have to settle. The problem with having it, we'd have to put it in a Google Drive and be a Google Doc, which could be problematic for security purposes. This is student data, so Robert would have to check this out, but most of the time with these forms, what we've had to do is people scan them and then they import them into Move It or or whatever the state system is that we can go pick them up, with permission. So having it in a Google Doc would lower the security. So
I was just thinking to make it fillable with their names, but I guess it still is a security issue. So when we put the name on there and all of that stuff to give to the teachers, right, or the district and the school and the teacher, put that in on there, but not the scores. It still, I guess, would be kind of a privacy issue, but
yeah,
I don't know.
And so that's an issue, but I can't answer that. Penny. That would have to be something Robert would look into.
Okay, and I'm sure you'll get to it. Do you want them scanned and sent back through Move It then, or how do you want that done?
That's the way we've always done it. That's the way I would suggest we do it. Unless Robert, this is not something I can control. So Robert would have to be the one to make that call and set that up. I don't even have access to Move It unless, Robert gives me a password to get in. So whenever we do like a needs assessment or evaluation, I get a temporary password that I can go and collect this data, and then it shuts down. I don't have it anymore. So this would have to be set up by Robert.
So Bill and
Yes.
Penny, I've looked into this before, and our data privacy people do not feel like Google is secure enough. So that's why we have been doing Move It in the past. The person who had to Move It was Fallon Care. So I'll need to get access to Move It going forward. Unless Becky, do you happen to have a Move It where you could assist us with that?
Let me look into that and I'll get back to you on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. But yeah, we're going to have to do something more secure than Google. Our data privacy people won't sign off on it.
Sure, that's understood. Okay, let me go ahead. I'll go through the form. What you're basically doing is we're taking the standards, like for reading K-12 and for math K-12, and we're asking teachers to rate where the kids are on the same rubric that gets used on the state assessment. Now, state assessments are scored in different ways, but all states have a rubric score for the state assessment, and that's the one that they ask us to use based on GEPRA, Government Performance and Results Act. They want you to use the rubrics for it. That's why we use it. So we're asking teachers just to rate the kids on the standards in reading and the standards in math. If we can get all the migrant kids, as many of the migrant kids as you possibly can for you that are in your district, that really, really helps. That's something that for a lot of reasons. First of all, we can argue to the feds, yes, we do have performance data on all the kids of some kind. The other thing is what I do is, as I said earlier, I'm going to compare kids. So if, Juan Martinez, back when we did the needs assessment, had one of these forms completed for him, and then you do another one for him, now I can look at the difference. And of course, as you might guess, migrant families are mobile, so we're missing a lot of kids. We're not going to get all the kids we got for the needs assessment. A lot of them are going to be gone. They're not going to be around anymore. So we have to, the more we get, the more comparisons we usually can make. So that's key. So these two forms are the heart of the evaluation. These are the ones to put most of your efforts on. Okay, let's talk about a couple of things on the form. Priority for service. Priority for service is a designation. It's a legal designation that they want OME, Office of Migrant Education, they want you to identify which kids are the ones most in need. If you have migrant kids that are getting straight A's, okay, then we don't need to do a lot of focus on them. But the priority for service kids, in order to be priority for service, you have to have two things. One, you have to have made a qualifying move within the previous 1 year period, meaning they have to be recently mobile. So within the past year, they have to have actually made a move. They can't be settled out, what they call settled out. Family that has been around for a while. They have to have made a move. The second thing, they have to be at risk of failing to meet challenging academic standards or dropped out of school. You guys are kind of the judge of that. Some states have real specific kinds of criteria that they say, well, this is what at risk is. By and large, at risk is if they're not proficient in language arts and or they're not proficient in math, then they're at risk. And that's the way I would judge it. Now, priority for service is important because if you don't have any priority for service kids, Robert's going to hear about it from the feds. And it can affect, depending on the way that your funding formulas are set up in Utah, it can actually affect the money that you get. Now, I don't know how Robert has set that up, but the more priority for service kids you have, the better. You should be looking in Utah at probably 60 to 70% of the migrant kids should be priority for service. Please check those boxes. You don't want to. We don't want to be turning into OME that Utah only has, out of 700 and some kids, we only have 60 priority for service kids. That's going to raise some eyebrows and people are going to be looking at that. We really need to be checking that box. It's really, really important. The second column to make sure I already mentioned this, is grade level. Please make sure grade level is filled in on this. It's absolutely critical. I have to know what grade level they're in because that's how we kind of compare things. We're looking at fourth graders, fourth graders to third graders. We need to see what grade level they're in. Otherwise, I have no idea whether we're dealing with secondary kids or, kindergarten kids. We have no way. So that's really important. The WIDA score is a 1 to 6, and I will ask if Robert can also send you along with the evaluation forms this PowerPoint. But WIDA score, the 1 to 6 is the composite score, and 1 is entering, 2 is emerging, 3 developing, 4 expanding, 5 bridging, and 6 reaching. So those are the divisions, and there will be a score, and all you have to do is put it in. You'll have to look that up That's really critical though, because that's one of our performance targets. We really, really, really need to know whether these are EL kids and where they're at. And then the state assessment rubric I've mentioned before, it's, below proficient, approaching proficient, proficient, highly proficient. So those things, if you just put the rubric scores in for anybody you have. Now, I understand there'd be a lot of kids you don't have scores for. If they're not EL, then there won't be an access score. If they didn't take the state assessment, they're not going to have a state assessment score. All we're interested in is the most current state assessment score that you have for them. So whatever that was, probably, I'm guessing, when the state assessment scores come out? Is it now or last fall? Anyone?
They're
Bill,
released in the fall from last year.
Yeah,
All right,
that's correct.
so use that score. All right, so that's that. And then we also have a form that's part of that packet that you give to teachers. It tells the teachers how to rate kids, explains that. The teacher should rate kids only on standards that they have provided instruction on. No guessing. You don't, if this is a kid and you've only been working with them for a couple of weeks, or, whatever, and all you've taught at that time is, let's say you're working with math and all you've been working on is number sense, then don't rate them on all the other math standards, because that you don't know where they're at. You only know where they're at when it comes to number sense. Please rate them only on their current grade level. So you're looking at, are they proficient at grade level, and just what subjects that you taught them. Otherwise, you leave it blank. All right, so that's that form. Does anybody have any questions on that form? Okay. Once you've completed the forms, well, we'll talk about that. Robert already mentioned it. All right, the second form we have, this is the administrator teacher MEP staff survey. So this is for you to fill out, all of you who are listening. Every one of you should fill this out, whether you're a recruiter or you're the local migrant program director. Everybody who directly works with migrant should fill this out. Who should, in addition, if you know teachers that have several migrant kids in their class and that are aware of what you're doing, have them fill it out. Same with an administrator that works directly with migrant. Okay, who should not fill it out? Anybody who really doesn't know migrant. I've had this happen before, where people just send this survey out to all administrators and say, "Can you fill this out?" Well, I get surveys back. People say, "I don't know anything about migrant, but okay, fine, I fill it out." That doesn't help at all. That really does damage. So I don't expect you to fill out 1,000,000 of these surveys. What we need some of these back from all of you, every district. We need some back, but really it's the migrant staff that need to fill it out. And if there are teachers or parapros that work a lot with migrant and could reasonably answer these questions, fine, ask them to fill it out. But, I don't need 50 surveys back from you, that are from people that don't have a clue. What I need back would be half a dozen or less surveys from people that actually know what's going on with the migrant program. So please do it that way. This is a subjective, do you agree or disagree as to whether or not the program is being effective in these areas? So, and these are the areas we said we would evaluate. So that shouldn't be that hard. As I said, most of your effort should be put in those first forms, the ones where we're collecting the teacher ratings. This one's important, but we don't expect a ton of them back. It's the same thing for this next form. I have to include in the evaluation whether or not certain services are being implemented. So all you have to do with this form, and once again, we don't need a million of these back either. We need them back from people who would actually know, and they're just the implementation of what kind of reading activities are you doing to support reading, to get kids to move towards proficiency. Small group reading instruction, targeting comprehension, small group reading or tutoring, targeting vocabulary, etc. So you just mark you're doing a significant amount of that, some of that, or not doing it at all. And so I need to collect that because it's part of when you do the evaluation, you need to do both formative and summative. Summative is the stuff that we show impact. Formative is what are the things that we're doing that would lead up to impact. So that's why we do this survey. It's a kind of a required survey. So we don't need a ton of these back either. Once again, as I said, it's just from people who would actually know. Okay. But we do need some from every single migrant program. That's critical. If you're receiving migrant funds, we've got to have information from you. So we can put it all together in the big pot. And then there's the parent survey. The parent survey, there's a lot of ways you can get this out. We have a copy in Spanish and a copy in English. If you need another language, you'd have to translate it yourself. There's a lot of ways to collect this data. You can, if you have a parent meeting, you can do it at the meeting. If recruiters are going out visiting families, they can bring this survey with them and just simply ask the parents, and they can fill it out for them. But we absolutely must have parent surveys from everybody. So we have to have some. Parents have to have input into the evaluation. That's a requirement. So that's why we ask these questions. Parents are usually super supportive of the program. So it's not the biggest issue is how do you collect that data. So that's something that you have to think about. But we got to have some surveys on parents from everybody. And then finally, the last survey would probably be filled out by the local migrant program director. And that would be, what district are you in and what strategies have been the most effective for achieving the goals of the migrant program in Utah. And you just write down what you think the most effective kind of strategies are. So if we get at least one or two of these from every program, that would be perfect. Okay, that's all of the forms for the evaluation, everything that needs to be done. Are there any questions on any of these? I know a lot of you filled them out before.
When are they due?
Well, that is the question. I'm saying May 29th.
June 5th.
Does that work?
Just kidding, Bill. I have to be a thorn in your side.
I didn't hear what you said.
Said, how about June 5th? June 6th? Takers? Anybody?
I would be fine with June 5th if that's what you want to do. But we have to get them in before the end of the school year. So, and these are the kind of things that, I've kind of learned over time that if you give people 4 months to do it, then nobody does it until the last couple weeks anyway. So, yeah, if you can get it in by May 29th, that would be perfect. If you get it in a few days later, fine. The idea would be to scan the data forms and submit it to Robert Palmer through the Utah Secure Data Server, which is what I mentioned. Robert will give you information on that, okay? Once he finds out what the deal is. But that's the best way to do it. As Robert said, this is student data, so we got to be careful with it. So, and this is very, very much appreciated. I can't tell you how much appreciated it is. This is a way that, Utah has always done very well with this continuous improvement model. We've always been able to show improvements in some areas. Utah has not been under corrective action for anything related to this for as long as I can remember. So, and it's because we do this and we take care of it correctly. So that's that's it for evaluation. Is everybody clear on everything? Okay, and Robert, you will be able to you'll send out you have all the forms to send out to people, right?
I have not received those forms yet, but if you send
All
them
right,
to me,
I will
send
send them over to you. I will send them over to you as soon as we're done.
Perfect.
So they're just PDFs, and I'll send them out to everybody. And if you would send them
Wonderful.
out to everybody, that would be great. And I'll
Sounds
send you the
perfect.
PowerPoint too, Robert.
I do have your PowerPoints, Bill, but yeah,
Okay.
the
All
documents would
right.
be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's move on quickly to the next thing. And I'm not going to get too deep into this. We have the migrant family re-interview, but we're not going to do that till fall. Um, it's going to be the same process we used last year. Re-interviewing is critical to make sure we don't have any ineligible kids. States that have ineligible kids have had to pay back money. You've heard me talk about this before. And if we usually what ends up happening is the reason that states will have ineligible kids is you get recruiters making a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, but when we do this each year, if we find any mistakes, what we can do is clean them up and say, get those kids off the rolls, and then we'll have a conversation about it. And then as long as we don't find a lot of kids who are ineligible, we're in good condition and we don't have to worry about turning that information into the feds. If we ever do a re-interview and we find a lot of kids who are ineligible, then the state is required to do a retrospective re-interview, which is to really check. Right now, we're doing what's called prospective re-interviews, which means we're looking to see if there's any kind of issues. And that's why we ask every single district to participate in this, because we need to make sure that the recruiters everywhere are not making any mistakes and that everybody's eligible. If we were to do it this time and find that somebody was making a mistake, we just basically say, okay, stop doing that and let's get those kids off the rolls and let's not worry about it. So it's really important that everybody participate in this. The way we do it, we're not going to do this till fall, but we will be looking at families of 6 to 10 migrant kids per Utah MEP program, which will be interviewed to assure eligibility and identify recruiting issues. The COEs will be randomly selected across all the COEs in Utah. We'll stratify them by district though. So if you have 20 kids, we may pull 6 of your COEs, okay? And we'll pull them randomly. We will complete the interviews in October and November. Alice, most of you know Alice. Alice Martinez-Bansberg will be the re-interviewer. She will do them all by phone. Families will also be asked about their kids' needs in relation to the migrant program. Even though we're not required to report that, we do. And it's basically just information for you. So she will ask each family what their key needs are. So it's just information to come back to you and you can do with it what you want. The key thing here is local recruiters and staff will need to assist the re-interviewer. We absolutely must have your help, especially now. And I don't have to spell out for you why. I think if a family sees a number they don't recognize, they're not going to answer the phone. So we need your help in setting up these appointments with the families. It's critical. They need to know, yes, Alice is going to call you, talk to her. This is her number. You'll be hearing from her. It's really critical. Otherwise, people aren't going to answer the phone. And you can think about and figure out why that would be. I mean, everything that's going on right now. So a lot of these families are afraid and they're not necessarily going to put themselves out there without support from somebody they trust, which would be you guys. You're the ones they trust. If they signed that COE and they're in your district and they're part of your program, you're the person that they trust. And so if you say, yeah, talk to her, it will be, it'll facilitate that whole process. Okay, that's it for the evaluation. Do you want to take a break before we move on, or do you want to just move on?
How's
on-
everybody
Keep
feeling?
on going. Keep trucking. Here we go.
All
Move
right.
on.
Keep trucking?
If
Am
you
I-
do need to
okay,
take a break, feel free to take a break. The meeting is being recorded, so don't want anyone having any medical issues or problems. If you need a break, please do take it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna blast on ahead. Am I the last person on the agenda?
Bill, we literally saved the last, the best of all. Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So I will blaze through this so that you guys can go about your business. So let me pull up the next. Okay, I'm going to talk about this quickly. Because you've heard about me talk about it before, but you know, Utah is a member of the Migrant Parent Empowerment Consortium. They have been from the beginning. The Utah's been a member since 1995, so 31 years. Utah's been a member of this consortium. Now, the consortium is of great benefit. And I'm not just saying that because of the resources we develop, but the consortium is of real benefit to Utah because the consortium grants are really unusual. And that if you are a member of a consortium, they will give you what they call incentive money just to be a member. So Utah gets $115,000 a year to be a member from the feds to be a member of this consortium. Now it doesn't, you know, a little bit of that money gets put into the project. Every consortium has to propose a project that they're going to do. So a little bit of that money gets put in to pay for that. But most of the money is used to support migrant programs in Utah. And Utah gets that money every year for being a member. So it's a really good situation for the state to continue to be part of the consortium. This consortium has three focuses now. The first is parent involvement, to facilitate parent involvement and parent participation in the migrant program. The second is to develop resources that support academics, particularly in the areas of reading and math. So those are the three purposes of the MPEC consortium. Now, as you all know, because you heard me talk about it, the consortium created the Migrant Literacy Net. We've developed a lot of resources over the years. Some of them we put on the Migrant Literacy Net. There are many resources we developed specifically for the Migrant Literacy Net. There's a lot of resources that the consortium has that I just want to make sure you're aware of beyond the Migrant Literacy Net. So these are things that you can use, and they're all free and they're all part of what you get for being a member. So let's talk about resources and services. Okay, we have a lot of workshops. All of these are recorded. I mean, we provide them all the time, and we welcome you to participate in them. But there's a lot of workshops that are we record them on the Migrant Literacy Net, or there's a link on the Migrant Literacy Net. But you can also, if you're interested in any of these, you can also email me and I'll send you the link. So, I mean, all kinds of them are on here, and some of them can be really valuable workshops. You know, we have developed some workshops where we use panels from other states, where the panels come in. These are folks that are experts at these things that talk about different strategies that you can use, you know, like distance education strategies or unique parent involvement strategies, real different. One of the ones that I do want to encourage you to look at, since we're coming close to that, is summer school implementation. You know, and this is something that for you to think about. When you have a summer school program, those kids will draw in any kid that's in a summer school program in Utah. It expands the migrant money that Utah gets dramatically. I mean, I'll give you an example. Utah has about 700 and some plus migrant kids. Okay. Not a whole lot of kids in the summer program. The state of Vermont has 325 kids, half of what Utah has. They have 219 of those kids in summer programs. What does that mean? Even though Utah has 725 plus kids, Vermont gets more migrant money than Utah. Summer programs make that much difference. So it's something to think about. If you are interested in a summer program, it's something you should talk to Robert about. It's probably too late this year to be talking about it, but the more kids that we have that are what's called category 2, the more money Utah's going to get in migrant money, and the more money you would get as a, because each district that would take on a summer program would need to receive more dollars to do that, to make it happen. And the summer programs don't need to be super long. Some people do a couple of weeks. So it's something for you to think about. But we have these workshops that are available. If you're interested in any of these, they're all recorded. You can take a look at it. We also have training for family literacy and math nights, which is a lot of parent involvement kind of thing. These are great workshops, I think, that you can access if you are looking at wanting to do a family literacy night or a family math night. So you can take a look at these at all different levels, grades K-2, grades 4 to 6, etc. So there's a lot of different information for that. Another thing that and you guys have participated in this, and it's worked, I think it's worked fairly well in Utah, is the consortium also puts on virtual and in-person PAC meetings. And often when we do a PAC meeting, a parent advisory council meeting, it's all virtual, and you can bring in parents from the districts, and we do those meetings typically in Spanish. And we can do them in English and Spanish, but those have worked really well, and that's a requirement. According to the regulations, according to the guidance, the state is required to have a PAC meeting, to have a parent advisory council, and to meet at least once a year. And actually, they're asking that the local programs also have them. Now, that's the simple solution to that, is for us to put on a virtual PAC meeting each year, and you just simply invite the parents to the school, and we go through the PAC meeting part, and then we have a lot of activities and fun things for the parents to do and show their kids. So it's something that we do. It's part of the consortium, and it's something that we may want to look at for fall this year, to do another PAC meeting here in Utah. Okay, we also have lots and lots of activities for parents. We now have 170, it says 174. We just went over that. We have 175 plus activities in both English and Spanish on the Migrant Literacy Net. Or if you just want certain activities, you can contact me and say, do we have any activities that deal in these instructional areas? These can be used for a lot of different things, but what they are is activities that parents can use at home with their kids to support instruction. So if you were teaching, sound symbol relationships in school, which is basic, phonemic awareness, we will have parent activities that you can send home for the parents to do things that support what you are doing in the classroom. And so these are a fun way of, and they're all fun activities, and they all they require a parent to have is just stuff they would have around the house if it requires any kind of manipulative. So there's a lot of good stuff here that you can use. And it's all on the Migrant Literacy Net, but if you're interested, you can also just contact me. Okay, on the Migrant Literacy Net itself, there's all kinds of reading, writing, math, and study skills lessons, as well as OSY. OSY is out of school youth. We have life skills lessons for them. All of that's free. You can download it. It's PDFs, has all the information you would need to do those lessons in most skill areas in reading, writing, math at the K-6 level. Most of the stuff on the Migrant Literacy Net is pre-K up to grade 6. All right, on the Migrant Literacy Net, we also have, and this is just on the MLN, we have the reading and math screeners, which identify kids' needs in reading and math, and they're broken down into these topic areas, these skill areas: phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary fluency, comprehension. For reading, like if you have very beginning readers, you would give them the phonemic awareness and phonics screeners, and they would not only will it tell you what their needs are in those areas, but it'll automatically assign online tutorials to the kids. And there are screeners for more advanced kids too. Same thing with math. We have screeners that deal with number sense operations, basic patterns, divisions, multiplication, etc. So all the way up to the higher level math, expressions, equations, and equality. So it'll tell what kids' needs are and automatically assign tutorials to the kids. And we have tutorials in all those same areas. As I said, most of the tutorials are aimed at pre-K to grade 6 kids. Once they hit, grade 6, if they are competent in these areas, they can typically succeed in high school. So that's why the focus is. And if you look at most migrant programs, most of the kids are going to be pre-K to grade 6. That's where our biggest number of students are. So that's why. So we have tutorials in all of these areas to cover all those things. We really encourage you to use them. There's great material there. There's audio for all of them. They're all in English and Spanish, so you can use them for a variety of purposes. And not only that, but it gives us data that we can use in the evaluation. The more you use the system, the more data we have. There's a teacher portal that you can find all these screeners and tutorials, as well as all these other resources I mentioned. There's 2 addresses for the Migrant Literacy Net, by the way: www.migrantliteracynet.com and www.meetingliteracyneeds.com. Either one will take you there. Everything is based on research and standards. So it's all research and best practice, and all of the tutorials and screeners have been field tested. So they all work, they're all keyed in. If somebody were to ask you, well, how does this relate to our district? It's all mapped to standards, so you can show them how it works. So everything on the system is research-based and standards-based. There's a parent portal, which I don't have time to get into today, but that's a whole workshop. We have recently, the last year or so, last couple of years, had really good luck with getting parents to start using the system. But the only way that happens is if we actually work with you and groups of parents and show them how to use the system. What we found out is the parent portal can be really, really useful in partnership with MEP staff. So if you have a family night where you invite families in, we can go on virtually, and we'll be glad to do this, and show parents how to use the system with you right there. And that really helps. The parent portal is both English and Spanish, so it depends on what language you speak. So you can go at it either way. And then finally, there's the student portal where all these screeners and tutorials are, and students can go on and take the screeners and the tutorials. When they complete the tutorials, back on the teachers portal is recorded how the students did. So there's a success plan for each kid. And so for every screen, every tutorial that they take, there's a score that will give you an idea of whether that student is improving skill-wise. Now, these are not high stakes assessments. They're informal. So, but they do give you an idea if they're increasing in skills. So it is something that's really valuable to teachers. All right, so that's Migrant Literacy Net.
Bill, I have a
What-
question if you have a minute.
Yes,
Call has been forwarded to voicemail.
How do parents access the portal? Do they need a username and password if they're going to use
Hi, this is
parent
Alan
portal?
Jack with Cache County School District. We
yes,
had
they,
a message in our offices. I'm trying to reach Cindy Nielsen. We had a message saying that you maybe were interested in making a donation towards
I
student
think, can
lunch
somebody mute
debt. And
Cindy Nielsen?
love to talk with you about that if you're interested. We appreciate people who are willing to
Alden,
do
your
things like that.
computer,
And,
your microphone's
love to have you
on.
call me back and I can kind of find out more about that. My office number is 435-792-7636.
We need a muting here.
Thanks.
Okay, yes, they can create their own username and password, and we show them how to do that. And then they have their own place online with a variety of things they can do with their kids. You know, there's ways that they can help their own kids with reading and math. There's all these activities that I talked about earlier. And then there's a way that there's a setup where they can improve their own reading and math. A lot of parents need that. And so that's something we put in there. But and if you are interested in using the parent portal with parents, you know, what I would suggest is we kind of do a quick Zoom and we can to show you how we've been using it and how that would work, how you could set it up for parents. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. I'd love to know how to use it. So if when we get together, they're going to ask about that.
Absolutely, be glad to set that up. And anybody who's interested, we could even do it statewide if you want. Doesn't have to be a real long Zoom, but it kind of will talk to you about how we've been using it and what works. So yeah, no problem. And we would even be glad to help you with it. You know, what we've done in several cases is set up a virtual deal where you just bring the parents in and then we'll kind of work with them in Spanish, usually in Spanish, to say, okay, you know, this is how you do it. This is the way it works. And so, and that works pretty well too. So if you want to do that, just let me know. Finally, the last thing I want to mention is, I think you already know this. We've set it up so that the Migrant Literacy Net will work on smaller devices. So you can use it, you can access it on a smartphone. As long as the kids have smartphones, they can do the tutorials and screeners. All right, so that's that. I think we're gonna do some kind of an evaluation as part of this, right, Robert?
Yes, Bill, that's correct.
All right. If you want to, you know, you heard Carrie talking. You heard Carrie talking, and she was talking about these staff trainings. Well, this was a staff training related to MPEC. So what you could do so people don't bug you is if you would use that link or that QR code right now and just go on and just do a quick evaluation to what I just did related to MPEC. That way Carrie gets some of her data, because I'm sure she talked to you about the staff survey. And this is the staff training survey. We're doing the staff training on MPEC resources. So if you would just take a minute and do that now, I know that you're going to do an evaluation as part of this, but she won't be able to use that. This is what she'll be able to use. And so if you can just take a minute and do that, I would really appreciate it.
Can you drop the
I'm just
link
gonna
in the
leave it-
chat, Bill?
What's that?
Will you drop the link in the chat?
I don't know how to do that. Robert, do you know how to do that?
I will try to figure it out. I don't have access to copy the link that you have on your slide and just paste it in there. But let me
Wait a
see
minute,
what
wait
I
a minute.
can do.
Maybe I can.
Okay.
Yeah, copy. Okay, where's chat? Chat. All right.
There we go.
So I
Awesome.
think we got it. Yeah, if you would do that, I'll move on to the next thing. But you know, it helps us both because that way, you know, I can tell you what. I mean, you heard Carrie talk, and if you don't do these staff surveys, she's going to bug you. And this is a way that you could all do one, so she can't say, well, you didn't do any. Okay, so we'll have other things we'll do this year, but that it would be very helpful if you did that. All right, finally, let's move on to the last piece for today. And this is eligibility. We want to talk about eligibility. All right, now this is definitely one of those that we want to have questions. If you have questions, you need to ask them. I've modified this some, we've done this before, but I've modified it some. I know that most of you are veterans and have been around Migrant a long time. So this, might be stuff you know and know very well. Others are more new to it. So, but what I will do is go through it quickly. I'm going to assume that most of you are aware of most of this stuff. If you're not, stop me and ask, okay? All right. The goals for this part of the training is to understand, get an explanation, purpose of migrant ed, what's the legal definition of migrant, what are the basics of what makes students eligible, what procedures would you use to identify migrant families and students, how do you fill out a COE, and other questions that might come up when it comes to ID&R. So those are the goals that we have for this training. So let me go ahead and go through this. Eligibility is always an area that people have a lot of questions on. And I know that you know the basics. What is migrant? You know that that's a term that gets bandied about a lot these days. And to many people, it means something different than what we're using it for. A migrant is not somebody from another country. A migrant is, in the terms of this program, is an agricultural worker that moves from place to place. They may or may not be from another country. Many migrants are not. Many migrants, are U.S. citizens. Some aren't. But what we're talking about here is migrant is someone who moves from place to place, following the crops to do agricultural work. Now they have to do it. It is a qualifying move has to happen within 3 years. Now you could have a family that moves and maybe you didn't find them for a year. That's fine. They still would qualify for 2 years if you found them a year after they have made the move. So they're qualified for 3 years. Okay, so when they make a qualifying move, and a qualifying move means they had to move from one district to another district. It can't be within the same district. There actually has to be a move, and the kids have to go with the family. You can't have a situation where you have the family lives in Nebo, and the worker drives to the next county for work and then comes home at night. That's not a qualifying move. It has to be where the whole family actually moves from Nebo to Beaver, and then from Beaver somewhere else eventually. There has to be an actual qualifying move. And they have to engage in temporary seasonal employment or personal subsistence in agriculture. That's not something that happens in Utah. Personal subsistence is a situation where you have to move in order to survive. And that happens in like Hawaii, where you've got families that follow the fish. They're moving along the coast to fish, and they actually eat the fish that they catch. So that's not something that I can see could be possible in Utah. Temporary seasonal employment in agriculture. The migratory child means a child who's made the qualifying move within 36 months. As the worker themselves, which happens, there are a lot of kids who are out of school and they do agricultural work. They can be eligible for migrant services as a separate person. But most kids become eligible because they're part of a family that's moving. So they move with or to join a parent or spouse who's a migrant agricultural worker, migrant fisher. The purpose of the program is to provide academic assistance. I know these families need a lot of help in all kinds of areas, but our focus is to provide academic assistance to students who, as a result of mobility, are often missing key foundational skills in reading and math. So we are looking at trying to support them academically, not in all other kinds of ways. Although you'll find that many migrant programs try and set up situations, particularly if you have a summer program, you'll find migrant programs have cooperative agreements with health services and dental services and eye exams and things like that, where they'll get pro bono people to come in and help during the summer with the family. So it's not an outlawed part of the program, but you can't directly spend money on that. Okay, qualifying move from one residence to another. I mentioned this already, from one school district to another. And I'm not going to get into there's other circumstances in which the state has a giant school district, like Alaska, where the qualifying move from one administrative area to another, or Hawaii is another one. Case of a school district is more than 15,000 square miles. I don't think that's an issue in Utah. So you got to look for families that actually move from one district to another and one residence to another. Okay, types of qualifying moves. There's two main ones that you need to be aware of. A family who has moved due to economic necessity has to be economic necessity. It can't be, I think I've used this example before, but one time in Nevada, I had a question from the Nevada, one of the migrant programs in Nevada said, well, we have a family that owns a large ranch in California. They also own a large ranch in Nevada. Now they move from one ranch to the other, a couple times a year to do different work. Are they eligible? Well, no, they're not eligible because it's not economic necessity. So keep that in mind. The first type is the standard type, that what we usually see. They made a move due to economic necessity, cross district lines. They moved into your district, and they actually found qualifying agricultural labor. In that case, it doesn't matter whether they have a long history of agricultural work or not. The worker acquired agricultural work. They moved due to economic necessity. They got the job in agriculture. They're qualified. The second situation is where history of agricultural work comes into play. When a family moves due to economic necessity, crosses district lines, they look for agricultural work, but they do not obtain it. Then that family has to have a history of agricultural work. Otherwise, they can't qualify. There are situations where they look for agriculture, they don't find it, but they still would be eligible because they have a history of it. Okay. There's a really great chart that the IRDC consortium has that you can kind of look at and see on one page how this all works. And you can get it from IDRC or it'll be in this PowerPoint, but you can take a look at it. It kind of gives you step by step questions you would ask so you know whether they're eligible or not. Has anyone in the household moved in the last 36 months? Yes, move to the next question. No, then they're not a migrant agricultural worker. Okay, so you just follow the arrows, the green arrows, and it will take you all the way through all of this. Is there any questions to any of this so far? Alrighty. What children are eligible for services? Ages birth to age 21. It's important for M6 particularly that you include all the kids on the COE, even though some of them are not eligible. Ages 0 to 2 are not eligible. As far as they're eligible, but you don't get any money for them. Okay. But you want to put them on the COE because if there are kids, in order, M6 wants you to have all the kids in the system, because what'll happen is once a kid turns 3, they are eligible for migrant funds. Well, it's most often they're going to turn 3 right in the middle of an academic year or a summer program if you've got summer program. When they turn 3, they're eligible. So you want them on the COE so that when they do become eligible, you can count them in your count. So it's important to put all kids on the COE if possible. Some of them are not eligible for funding yet, but it's good to put them all on there. Children who have moved as the worker themselves, or with or to join a parent or guardian to do the work. All kids are eligible for 36 months unless they move every year. If a family is actually truly migrant and they move every year, well, then the kids are going to be eligible for their entire school career. You're only eligible for 36 months if you move and then you stop and you never move again. If once you get to a place, that's called settled out. You moved, you got there, you're done. And you don't move again, well, you still get 3 years worth of service. One point that I want to make, which is a point we've run into in Utah and in other states, is it's really important. Sometimes a worker will move into a place and then the kids and the family will join the worker later. That's not uncommon. Sometimes the family will get here first and the worker will arrive later. The qualifying arrival date is when they're both together. When the worker and the family are both together from the move. One really important thing to know is that the kids and the worker have to join each other within 1 year. If it's more than 1 year, they're not eligible. They're just not. It's the way it is. And so you need to be aware of that. Because it's not an uncommon thing for a worker to move in. They move into your district, take an agricultural job, and then the family might not join them for 2 years. The family doesn't join, the family's not eligible. So keep that in mind. That's a really important difference, because if there's more than the 12 months between when the family's joined, the kids are not eligible. Now, I don't agree with that, but that's the way it is. Okay. Identification of migrant students. You can find this information if you want to go to the IRDC consortium, and I put the address up there. They have a lot of great, our consortium deals with academics and parent involvement. Their consortium deals with identification and recruitment. All of their stuff is free too. I would say take advantage of it. Even though Utah's not a member of the IRDC consortium, you can still use everything they got. You can see the counties ranked by agricultural sales. They have that. They have lots of information about where all the farm workers are, what counties they're in. They have lots and lots of great information. So it's something that take a look at. If you're trying to expand the number of migrant kids in your district, if you think they're out there, the families are out there, you can see, take a look at the map right here. You can see there's lots of farm workers. Now, they may not be migrant, but you can see where most of the farm workers are in Utah right here by looking at this map here. You've got lots. Some districts have very small numbers. Some districts have large numbers. So there's the ones with the larger numbers are more likely to have more kids. This does not guarantee they're migrant, of course. All right, so identifying migrant families and students, ask your current families if they know of other families. That's one of the best ways. When recruiters go out to meet with the families, you can always ask them, do you know of other families that have moved in? that are working in the fields. So that's something you can definitely do. It's a good way of finding other families. You can check M6 for families moving into your area. I don't know how much good that's going to do, to be honest. Might get shot saying that, but I don't know. Has anybody ever picked up a family from looking at M6? Anybody?
We found a couple on M6, but we had already identified them locally.
Okay, all right.
And then they showed
I'm
up
not-
on M6.
Yeah, I mean it's a good place to look. The other thing that we always encourage, and I know you've seen this before, is if you want to try and enhance your numbers, and you can get your, I realize as the local migrant director, you may not have the authority to make this happen. But if you can get a parent survey included in the enrollment packets when families come in to enroll in school, a survey, something like this is an example. We have this in English and Spanish. Really, it gives you some leads. This isn't going to tell you for sure whether the family's migrant, but it would certainly be very useful. You know, if every family came in and they'd asked them to fill this out, and really it's only questions 1 and 2 that matter. You know, the past 3 years, has your family lived in another school district? And in the past 3 years, has anyone in your household been working with these agricultural jobs? If the answer to those 2 questions is yes, then you might have a migrant family. And that's something that could be followed up on with your recruiter. It's not a guarantee, but it's a pretty good shot. But those questions, you don't have to use this survey, but if you had as part of the enrollment form, you had those 2 questions, and you guys could get access to that data within your district, you may be able to identify families that you hadn't identified before. So this is just, if you want copies of this, I'll make sure that Robert has them. And so you can get copies of it, or you could, just something for you to consider if you're trying to beef up your numbers. Obviously, the more kids you have, the more money you get. All right. I don't know how in depth I need to go through completing a COE. This is the COE. One must be filled out for every family to be eligible. The family cannot fill this out themselves. It has to be filled out by the recruiter or somebody on the migrant staff, and it has to be signed off by the LEA, the recruiter, and then finally, Robert has to approve it to make sure that the family is actually eligible. So this is the document. This is a legal document. This is the document we get families to sign to agree to participate in the program. Family doesn't have to agree to participate. If they say, no, we're not interested, you let it go. Can't do anything about that. But if you do have a family that you feel is migrant, you need to submit it for approval. Key things on the COE, you've got to fill in the name of the parents or guardians. And probably one of the most important things on here is the telephone. Addresses might change, but a lot of families have cell phones. And so the telephone is the best way to ensure you can get a hold of the family. You want the address too. Sometimes it change telephone numbers too. But that's one of the best things. You want to make sure that you have a current phone number on that COE so you can contact the family. We go to part 2 of the COE. You're going to fill in the name of each child. Some kids have 2 last names. You should put both. Fill in this is one that people hate, but you need to fill in a student ID number for each child, even the young kids, which means ideally you've got to go and ask for it. And the way I understand it, each district has to ask to get an SSID number for each child. You want to put an ID number for each kid, because if you have a kid that doesn't have one, it's going to kick back, and it's going to, from M6 as well as MIS 2000, they're going to want you to have an ID number for every child. All right, you need the current grade level. You fill in the gender for each child, fill in the birthday. This is really important because that's, birthday is a part of how you decide whether the child is eligible. Ages 3, 21. So they have to fall within that category. So you want to make sure you put the birthday on there, okay? The MB column refers to multiple birth. If you got twins or triplets, put yes. CD verification code, that's basically how did you verify what the birth date was. I would say, and I've said this before, most of the time I would just put 1007 or 07. That parent's affidavit. That means, in other words, the parent told you this was the birthday. Okay. Other than that, you got to put something else. Did you get a birth certificate? Did you see, baptismal certificate? Did you get some kind of immigration document? The simplest thing is to put 07 there, just so you have some way of verifying where you got the birth date. Residency date, okay? Residency date is often the QAD. Now, a lot of you can say, well, what does this matter? It matters because there are things that can get it. There are things that are part of what the data is collected for Migrant Ed can cause real problems for you. Not having a residency date or not having what they call a residency verification date, which is not on the COE, but it's in the M6 and on MIS 2000, can literally cause kids to be not counted. If you're missing that data, those kids will not be counted for your district. So you might have 200 kids in your district, and if you don't have a residency date or residency verification date for those kids, it'll look like you have no kids. So that I don't agree with that, but that's the way they've set it up. So you want to make sure that you have a residency date. It can often is the QA, the same as the QAD. It's when the kids entered the present school district. Use a 2-digit number, it refers to the month and day, last 2 digits of the years to indicate it. If the children moved prior to the workers moved, the residency date would be different, or after, etc. But many times it's just the QAD. It's just the time of the QAD. It's when the family arrived, they enrolled in school. So make sure that you put that in there. Really important. These COEs get uploaded to MIS 2000. MIS 2000 uploads to M6. So everything on M6, where did it come from? MIS 2000. That's the only way that M6 got the data. MIS 2000 probably uploads every day to M6 or every couple of days. I don't know exactly how MIS 2000 does it, but everything, the heart of wherever you put data is MIS 2000. That's where you've got to make sure your data is accurate, because that's where it all comes from. At the end of the year, when they do the CSPR, Consolidated State Performance Report, that data gets uploaded or downloaded, whichever term you want to use, from MIS 2000. That's where it all comes from. So MIS 2000 is what has to be correct. So make sure it's all correct. All right, completing the COE. I'm not going to go through this in detail. I'm assuming you guys know all of this. This is part 3 of the COE. It's what's qualifying work. When people move, did the kids move with the worker? Did they come later? What's the qualifying arrival date? That's the date that both the after the move, both the parents and the worker and the children are together. What qualifying work are they doing? And that means work in agriculture or fishing. Is it seasonal or is it temporary? Biggest difference there is, seasonal work is pretty much, planting and harvesting. It can be, strawberries or beets or whatever it happens to be, but it's typically things that grow. Most temporary employment is families that work for, feedlots or, livestock production companies. In order for them to be eligible, they actually have to work directly with the product. So if they're working for the turkey plant, they have to work directly with the turkeys. And they have to be told that when their work is temporary, in other words, not longer than 12 months. And you can go by what the family says. If the family says, yeah, we were told that this would not, be a long, more than 12 months, then you can count it as temporary. Okay. Any questions on any of this? I think you guys all know all this.
I
I just wanted to
question.
say something really quick.
Yes.
Well, go ahead, whoever was talking.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just with that temporary, that's one thing we saw in our district. And when I took over as recruiters, we found a lot of, families that were working in agriculture, but when they were employed, their idea was like, oh, well, they just told me it was a work, and now I've been here for 2 or 3 years. They never told me it was by contract or temporary or seasonal or anything like that, but they had been identified mistakenly because of that. So that is really important to verify when they're employed, if it was temporary or not, or if they knew if it would be temporary or not. Correct me if I'm wrong on
You
that.
do
Bill,
have
but
to,
that's
you have to
something.
verify it, but keep in mind, if a family says to you, well, we were told this was temporary, they are eligible,
rock on.
flat out.
Yep.
If they end up getting employed there permanently, okay, great for them. Then they become settled out, but they still get services for 36 months. But you're right, you have to find out. Now there's 2 sides to that coin. You can get that information from the employer, which is harder to do. But you can say, okay, did you tell these people it was temporary? Or you can take the word of the family. If the family says we were told, then they're eligible. Yeah. For 36 months.
Like you said, it can get a little messy because sometimes, you'll talk to one family that worked for the same employer and they said, oh, well, it was temporary. And then you talk to the same a different family that worked for the same employer. They said, no, they said it was permanent. So it's kind of tough to do that because you're like, well, if one is qualifying, should the other one qualify too, even though their words were different? So it becomes a little bit messy.
Yes, no, you're absolutely correct. And you want to be as honest about it as you can be. But if the family tells you sincerely that they believed it was temporary, then you can qualify them. But you're right. Yeah, you bring up a really good point. If they tell you that if they said it's permanent, then you got to let it go. But yeah. And the other thing you have to make sure with temporary is that they're directly working with the product, with the agricultural product. So there are situations where you can get a job, working for, the chicken plant, and you're a truck driver, that you're not really eligible then. So it has to work directly with the livestock or whatever it is they're processing. Other questions?
You have a question on the COE. The one you're showing is an old one, which I like better. Robert, when are we getting a new COE, but that's updated?
So Penny, thank you for that question. I'm not exactly sure. Everything was put on hold because of the funding freeze. I did reach out to our federal contact at the Office of Migrant Education. I gave her that knowledge. She's actually been reassigned for 2 months to a budget place. And I have a new person. As soon as we get that settled in, and I'll give you more information about what's going on there and my closing updates. But it's on the radar. They're aware of it. And it's a process of making sure we can get it approved. And then I've talked to Marcy Trogdon as well, as you've been involved in those conversations, Penny. And she's ready to make that change as soon as OME's okay with us making the change.
Thank you. Once the change is made, how long does it take to print those COEs? So are we going to have them possibly by fall? Is it going to be next year?
I don't foresee it being by fall due to the state of where we're at with things right now federally. But, once it's done, once it's approved and it's able to be done, we can print those off. I mean, just the regular standard printing time.
So in the meantime, you still have the current ones You still have
Becky?
copies of the current ones, so we are almost out down here.
Okay. Becky, I know you talked about this recently, you and I. You have those forms somewhere in the office, correct?
I do. So it's just
Okay.
a matter of uh, knowing where I'm sending them and getting them out. I won't be back in the office. I'm working from home this week, the rest of this week, but I will be back in the office on Monday and Tuesday, and I could get some out then.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks for letting us know, Penny. If anybody else has that issue, please email me and I can get that to Becky and she can get those sent your way.
Robert sent me one too. If there's most of the time the differences with these COEs are minor, but if there's a difference between what I'm showing up here on the screen and what's being used now, send me one too, please.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, the last part of the COE. Make sure in the comment section you're clear about what kind of work they do. You can't just say they're working the fields. You need to be specific. So that's a good place to put it, is in the comments. Make sure that the parent signs it. Make sure the recruiter signs it. And then it can be inputted. You may want to set it up so that whoever is the local migrant program director signs it. That's up to you guys. And then it needs to be put into MIS 2000 for Robert to approve it. We also encourage people, we can't make you, we encourage you, in addition to the COE, to complete one of these. It's a way to identify needs that families have. And the recruiter can fill out the blue part of this. We have these parent advocate logs. Jeff had made it mandatory. As far that was back with Jeff, I don't think Robert and I have even talked about this. But this is something that's easy to collect information when the recruiter goes with the family. It has advantages if you're a recruiter. If you're going to meet a family and the family says, "Why am I going to sign this COE? What's in it for me?" And you sit and you ask them questions about what kind of needs do your kids have, and it makes the transition of, okay, they're collecting information on how they can help me. So it's good information for the local program to have. It's not so much that, I mean, I have used it in the evaluations and in the needs assessments before, but it's more important for the local folks to have it. And it's kind of up to you whether you want to use this form or not. It has a bottom part that the migrant program staff can use to transfer what the family's needs are and to what kind of interventions or things that we can do with the family. But it does give you a good idea of what the family's needs are. So it is something that you can use. Okay. Questions on this, Penny? Yes.
Yeah, I always have questions. This parent family log, you want us to send them to you? Do you want us just to hang on to them? And if we need to send them to you or Robert or whichever the case may be, what would be the purpose of that?
I don't think you need to send them to me because you're going to be collecting information for the evaluation, which is similar to this if you're doing the parent surveys.
Right. And I really like this family log because it's helped us. Some of our kids we have found don't have access to the internet. So we were able to get them computers that the Chromebooks that we have, some of them actually have hotspots built into them. So they're able to use that in their home. So it's been very helpful that way.
I would say keep it, Penny. But I will tell you this, when Alice does the re-interview, she will have this form. She'll ask the families this because you hit it right on the head. Yeah, a lot of families are going to need help with reading and math, etc. But it's really important, particularly in this day and age, to know whether they have access to the internet, to know whether they have access to something so they can connect. Otherwise, the kids are going to really be behind. Because if you're doing any kind of distance ed stuff or kids have to do homework from home, if they don't have access to anything, there's no way they can do it. So it's not that you can magically have a solution for anything that's identified here, but at least you know. And so As Penny said, some of the families you're able to help them with a tablet or a laptop. Some of the families you may be able to set up a hotspot or something. There's different ways you can deal with this, but at least by using this form, you know what the needs are, and you're making an attempt to, one of the criticisms that I've heard migrant families make, and it's not in Utah, it's just in general. They make a criticism. It's like, we signed the COE and that's fine, but as far as we can tell, we got nothing. Nobody did anything. Nobody helped us. Nobody did anything. And so this is kind of a way to say, okay, well, at least you may not have the biggest program. You may not have a whole bunch of staff. You may not have a whole lot of money. But if you use this form when the recruiter goes out with the COE to visit the family, at least you know what the needs are. At least you can say, okay, we know what the needs are. Maybe there's some stuff we can do with this. What can we do or what can't we do? But at least you know. And it also makes the family feel like, well, somebody asked us at least. So that would be my argument,
Right.
But
The Utah, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The Utah legislature is changing things up again for next year. They're changing policies for take-home devices for elementary, junior high. High school will be very similar, but they are doing some serious changing everywhere else.
What kind of changes are they doing? Do you know?
K through 6, mostly 1 through 6, will have Chromebooks available in the classrooms for teachers to use. Will not be allowed to take them home at night. 7th and 8th will have Chromebooks accessible in the classroom. The parents have to opt in if they want their student to bring their Chromebooks home at night or after school. They're trying to switch from a 30% writing, 70% electronics to 70 writing, 30 electronics.
Okay.
So they're just making some changes. They're looking at bell to bell of no cell phones. Right now in our school, you can have them at lunchtime, but they are looking at bell to bell.
Okay. Well, that's all good information. So you can, that will inform all of this. So that's good to hear. All right. There are, we do have forms that you can use if you're trying to entice families to use to sign up for the program. This is an example form. You put your contact information on it. This is a form that explains the Migrant Literacy Net. We have copies of that for you if you want it. Okay, finally, all COEs must be completed and entered into MS 2000. From there, Robert will approve them. He may contact you to confirm certain aspects of eligibility. Once COE is approved, then they are officially eligible migrant students. So, so district should maintain a copy of all the parent advocacy logs used in program planning. I don't know that's necessary. I put in here copies of all logs should be scanned and emailed to Robert Palmer, and I misspelled Robert Palmer's name. I don't know that that's necessary or not. It can be helpful. We're doing some pretty extensive needs assessment as we work with these forms that I've asked you to complete, as well as evaluations. I don't know that that's necessary, but that's a call for Robert. All right. Any questions?
Awesome. Bill, you're the best. That was so great, so helpful. Thank you so very much.
I don't know if I'm the best, but
you are in my book.
Okay, let's see. How do I stop stream? Okay, stop sharing. I'll turn it back to you, Robert.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Robert.
All right, guys, we are trucking along here. We're doing good. Just doing a quick time check. Good. I have plenty of time to just share a few quick updates with you. I did receive some requests from you to have a person from the Office of Migrant Education come to this meeting and provide federal updates and field questions. My federal contact is a woman by the name of Sarah Martinez. She is the kindest, most fabulous person you'll ever come across. She is always readily accessible. She totally understands and does what's best for children and for states and for LEAs. She told me, Robert, I would have loved to come to present for you, but we now have to submit a request to present and from the federal government. And she said, just so you're aware, everyone that I've requested this year has come back rejected. And I said, okay, that's not a problem. So she was on the agenda this whole time. She finally got a response, and they said, we do not want you talking directly to LEAs and fielding questions, which is fine. Like I mentioned, Sarah has been reassigned for the next 2 months to the budget area of migrant education. She has some experience there. So we're going back to Preeti. I can't remember her last name. She oversaw it for about 6 months when I first started in migrant education. Preeti's great. She's very helpful, very resourceful as well. What I want to tell you about the update is this. There is lots of rumors. There is lots of gossip. There are lots of people emailing. Some of them are fraudulent and they have nothing to do with the Utah State Board of Education or migrant education program. Please be careful and be wary of receiving these emails. I was overseeing the 21st Century program while our colleague Savannah Hunt was on leave, and an LEA forwarded me one of their emails they received asking about it. Please always check with me before you respond to any of those emails. It's a crazy world we live in. Some of the things that are true right now in the presidential's proposed budget, there is no funding for migrant education. We've seen this movie before. We've been there, we've done that. And for me, the best way to move forward is the protocol and advice we received last year here at the State Board of Education, which was business as usual. It doesn't do any good to speculate. It doesn't do any good to guess. Just keep doing what you're doing. You are all doing fabulous work. There's been no issues. There's been no compliance issues or findings or anything like that for the migrant education program. As some of you know, as far as monitoring goes, let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen. I have sent out this. It is our migrant education, Utah State Board of Education Federal Program Review for Title I-C Migrant Education Program. This is not going to anyone other than me. This is what I'm going to do to look at, to go through those answers to those questions. Many of them are from the monitoring tool we use when we go out to states, to LEAs. I want all the information ahead of time so that if someone asks for something or requests something, I have the data ready to go. I have the answers. I am personally reviewing each one of those answers. And based on my review, if I have any questions or concerns, I may schedule a short virtual meeting with you to go through them and to talk about them. Like I said, that is just for me. That was not from the federal government. That was not due to any concerns. I want to be prepared because it seems like OME randomly likes to ask questions that they've never asked before recently and want to know things that they've never done before. So you guys do a fabulous job with your programs, every one of you. And now it's a matter of just letting people at the federal government that want to know that, yes, you do your job. Yes, it is benefiting students and families. And yes, it's a program that has to be funded. It's not something that is frivolous or is not effective. We all know that's the case. So that's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to collect the data to tell the story, because there's two versions of data, right? There's the storytelling where you can share an experience of finding a migrant student, getting them the support and resources they need, and watching them flourish. That's great. And for a lot of people, that really works. But there are some hardcore number of people that want to see the statistics behind it. They don't want the feel-good story. So we'll do both, and that's great. If I hear any updates, I will immediately tell you. As soon as I hear it, I will let you know. Just so you know, if you look in your screen, you'll see Max Lang. Max is in charge of all the federal grants in this state, and he has a personal interest investment in the migrant program as he oversaw it for many, many years. The success of this program is directly linked to Max. It's been handed down and people have been stewards over it. But make no mistake, the reason why it's successful is because of Max. And Max is not going to let this program fail. He's an advocate for it. He sticks up for it. He helps me in times where I have questions or comments. And we have Bill. And I want you guys to know that we were very fortunate to get Dr. Bansberg back. We were very fortunate. And we're thrilled to have him back. So those are my updates. I want to thank each of you for being here today and for going through this process with us. I will send out all the handouts and the recording of the meeting. I'd like to thank Becky Peters for being just a fabulous technical support person and for manning the chat. Thank all our presenters, Carrie, Bill, Marcy. They all did a fabulous job. Thank you for your questions and for your attention. Before I close, Dr. Lang, is there anything you'd like to add?
Who are you? What is this meeting? And Bill, would you mind starting your presentation over again? I wasn't paying attention.
But I wasn't either.
All right, my friends.
I love that some things never change.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care, all of you. Good to see you, sort of.
Good to hear you.
Yes.
Where's Alice
Good to hear
today?
you. Good to hear you.
Where's Alice today?